evidence of things not seen. If you can see it, you don't have to have faith that it's there. I want you to understand this. People going over to chapter 9, verse 22 of Hebrews. No, that's not where I wanted to go. Let's go over to 11:6. Let's go there first. Chapter 11, verse 6. For those of you that want to please God, for those of you that want to be blessed by God, some people don't care about their blessings. Some people don't care about anything. They just want to get through life. But without faith, it is impossible to please him, for he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. In order to come to God, first of all, you got to believe that God exists, that he is. And you can't see God in a manly fashion standing before you right now. You can't see the spirit man of God. You can't see him. And if he's in a manly fashion standing before you, if he's transformed himself into a man, then you would know he's God, because he would tell you he's God. But what I'm saying is, you can't see the spiritual being God, but you have to have faith that he's here. You have to have faith that he's here. You have to have faith that he's standing all around you, that he is God, and that he is a rewarder to them that diligently seek him. He rewards us with what? Eternal life. Now, I want to go, and the only person that knows about what I'm fixing to talk about could possibly is Stormy, because I did a letter a few weeks ago, and I want to talk to you about faith for just a minute. Let's go back over to Genesis. Now, we all know the story of Abraham. We know that Abraham obeyed God. He feared God. He reverenced God. God said, Abraham, I want you to leave your family. I want you to leave everybody you love, everybody you care for. And I want you to go to a strange land. Leave all your relatives behind. I want you and your wife to go to a strange land. And when you go to that strange land, I'm going to make you the father of many nations. I'm going to bless your family, and they're going to multiply as the stars of the sky and as the sands of the sea. Abraham said, well, that sounds pretty good. Abraham packed his bags, left everybody behind him, said bye, and walked off, just him and his wife, and of course his uncle's son, or his uncle's son, or not his brother's son, Lot went with him. Lot went with him because pretty much Abraham was taking care of him. And they went to a far, strange land, having nothing but a promise. But he had faith that God would do what God said. He had faith that he was talking to God. He had faith that it was God's voice, it was God's guidance, it was God's that it was his voice that was guiding him, leading him. He had faith that it was God talking to him, telling him to do something. And we know the story. When he got to where he was going, he had troubles. No offspring, no son. Years went by, no son. Dozens of years went by, no son. No seed to multiply his family. Sarah was barren. Nothing there. But God had made him a promise. I'm going to make you the father of many nations. Abraham held on to the faith. And then one day, out in the plains, now at this time, he's close to 100 years old, 99 years old, I believe, right at 100. And he's standing in the door of his tent, and he sees 3 men standing under a tree out there. And he knew one of them was God. So he went out and started talking to God. They talked for a while and they ate. He went and killed a fatling and they ate together. God waited for him to cook it. And God pretty much confirmed that day his promise. Been close to 100 years. Abraham was still standing faithful. And God came and confirmed the promise. You're going to be the father of many nations. Not long after that, I'm not going to go through the whole story, but not long after that, Isaac was conceived. Isaac was the one that the promise was made to. Isaac was born, and Isaac started growing. And as he grew, he became a young lad. And God appeared to Abraham one morning. He said, Abraham, I want you to take your boy. Take him to a mountain that I'm going to show you. That I'll tell you which one. He said, I want you to take him up there and offer him as a burnt sacrifice. Waited 100 years to get the son. And now God's telling him, I want you to go to a mountain. I was reading this the other day, and God started talking to me and dealing with me, and I want to read it with you. Chapter 22 of Genesis. Chapter 22 of Genesis, verse 2 is where we're going to begin. And he said, Take now thy son, thine only son Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains which I will tell thee of. And Abraham rose up early in the morning and saddled his ass and took 2 of his young men with him and Isaac his son, and clave the wood for the burnt offering, and rose up and went unto the place of which God had told him. He went to the Moriah mountains, Mount Moriah. And as Isaac got to the mountain, he saw the mountain that God told him to come to. Verse 4, And on the 3rd day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place afar off, having faith that this was the right mountain. And my question to you is, if he had gone to the wrong mountain, had he looked at that mountain and said, Lord, this is the highest mountain of the mountain range, I believe I'll take this mountain over here. It's a lot. I've got to walk up that mountain, Lord. I'm 100 years old. I've got to climb that mountain. And I'm an old man. What if he had chosen another mountain? Would the ram have been there? Had he disobeyed God, would the sacrifice have been there? You know the story of how the ram was caught in the bushes, in the brushes. You know the story how Abraham drew back the knife, put Isaac up on the rock there on the altar, and drew back the knife, getting ready to kill his only begotten son that was to be the father of all the nations, that was to multiply Abraham's children to where they would be as the stars of the sky and as the sands of the sea. What if he had disobeyed God and went to offer the sacrifice, but went to the wrong mountain? You see, God's got a blessing when we're obedient. God has a blessing waiting for us when we're obedient. God said, I'll show you which mountain to go to. God said, I want you to go to the mountain and offer Isaac as a burnt sacrifice. Abraham was obedient to God. Abraham went to the mountain that God directed him to go to, and even though it was a high mountain, he still was obedient to God because God had a blessing for him there. Today, God instructs people. He tells us things that he wants us to do that we can receive our blessing. He tells us which church we need to go to. He tells us where our blessings are, but so many people are disobedient